This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast, and I'm your host, Amanda Kendle of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode, I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 0 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendle, and I'm an Australian living in Perth, Western Australia. That's a city that even Wikipedia considers to be the most isolated city on the planet. But I haven't let this stop me from travelling a lot, and in my 20s I moved abroad and lived in Japan, Slovakia and Germany, and eventually married a German who suggested we move back to Perth. We did, and now live here again with our almost 6-year-old son. Almost 11 years ago, I started my travel blog at notaballerina.com. And that's not only about my own travel experiences, but more broadly about why we travel and what we learn from it. The Thoughtful Travel Podcast is my chance to take this one step further by sharing similar stories from interesting people all around the world. I've got all kinds of fascinating guests lined up, including travel bloggers, photographers, travelling writers, and pretty much anyone who loves to travel and has some interesting tales to tell about their travel experiences. The Thoughtful Travel Podcast will have a different theme for each episode and will feature stories from several people each time. I want to collect stories about all kinds of travel topics, the people we meet on our travels, the fears and anxieties of travel, the hilarious mishaps and those lost in translation moments, the lessons we learn from seeing how people in other places live, basically all kinds of stuff, both fun and thoughtful. I hope that anyone who loves travel will listen in and feel some joy or inspiration or just be reminded happily of their own travel experiences. On to some housekeeping. The Thoughtful Travel Podcast will launch in the week of the 25th of March with several episodes and then be a weekly show. The 25th of March launch is pretty significant for me because that's also my 40th birthday. It seems like an important age to me, so I thought I'd do something big to celebrate it, like launching a travel podcast. So to help me celebrate that 40th birthday, you can support the podcast by subscribing on iTunes or your podcast listening app of choice so that when launch week comes around, the exciting initial episodes will be ready and waiting for your ears. And don't forget to tell your friends about it too. But before I let you go, since this episode is all about firsts, really, I wanted to tell you a quick tale of one of my travel firsts. It's quite personal, but it was such an important travel first, and it just reminds me why travel is so important to me. So, a bit over a decade ago, I had been living in Germany, and I was on a road trip with my then boyfriend through Croatia. And it was meant to be like a final trip before we returned to Australia to live. So for all kinds of reasons, while we were in Dubrovnik, I broke up with this boyfriend. We agreed that he would take the car and continue on the trip, and I headed off on a bus to the north of Croatia. We still had an apartment back in Germany, so I guess I was going there. But in the middle of the night, I found myself wandering around the Zagreb bus station with no precise plan at all of what would happen next. Now, a few years earlier, I would have had a complete breakdown in a situation like that. I would have panicked and just not coped. But that's why this was a first. And I felt there, for the first time, that I was completely in charge of my life and I really could do anything I wanted. I remember looking up at the timetable board and I saw all the different destinations I could choose from. I remember I contemplated surprising a friend in the Czech Republic or going to see somewhere in the Balkans that I'd missed. The possibilities just kind of seemed endless, and it was really the most powerful moment for me. In the end, I decided to pick the bus to Vienna and to work my way back to Germany and the apartment there, but that's not really the point, I guess. Really, this was that first moment where I really believed that my whole life was in front of me and I was able to do whatever I chose. All my travels over the previous years had been building up to that moment. And of course, I know it sounds kind of corny to say it out loud, but I really believed I could do anything. And I suspect that many of you who've travelled a lot will also have had these kind of empowering moments. In fact, I look forward to hearing these kind of stories from my future guests. as well as the entertaining and fun ones and everything in between. So, to finish up, if you'd like to be a guest or have any other feedback, you can reach me on Twitter at Amanda Kendle, or search for Not a Ballerina on Facebook, or head to notaballerina.com/podcast for more info too. I'm so looking forward to this new podcasting adventure, and I hope you'll join me for the ride. Bye for now.
Zagreb FM. For your ears.
Who is that? Hi, podcast.